The Nuggets trade for NBA champion Bryn Forbes. Plus, where the heck is Boogie? This is Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Network, your team every day. Thanks for joining us and making us a part of your day and making us your first listen each and every day. If you would like, you can subscribe to us on YouTube, which is what we definitely want you to do. It's the best way for you to support the show. You get notifications. You can join in the live chat. We discuss this every night. You can turn on notifications and it'll let you know when we're about to do a podcast, like tonight in the case of an emergency, as I was about ready to head to bed when Adam was like, so you're going to want to join this one now, as my wife let me know that the Denver Nuggets have traded Bol Bol and PJ Dozier, and in exchange return San Antonio guard Bryn Forbes. We'll break it all down, get into all the details, updates on Boogie Cousins, lots to get into today. Adam Mares, Director of Content for DNVR. How are you?
I'm good, man. News came around. I was getting ready, like you said, to do a notebook pod, and then this dropped. So I guess the notebook notes will be pushed to the side. Or maybe we'll do them later in segment 3.
So let's start here. On Tuesday night, the Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN, who I don't know if people know this, but good friend, enjoys a good relationship with both Kroenke Sports Entertainment and the front office. So naturally, Woj is oftentimes the one to get such scoops. And he reported that the Denver Nuggets have traded Bol Bol and PJ Dozier. They both go to Boston. Juancho Hernangomez, old friend of the Nuggets, heads to San Antonio. San Antonio receives a 2028 second rounder from Denver. It's just a little sweetener. And the Denver Nuggets acquire Bryn Forbes, a 6'2" guard who is best known as an absolutely phenomenal, lethal shooter. He is 28 years old. He is from Lansing, Michigan, born in Lansing, Michigan, went to Michigan State. For the record, I always believe the Michigan State guys. I think that they are always good. More importantly, Bryn Forbes is a career 41% three-point shooter. He is absolutely consistently one of the best shooters in the league. Forbes has just a very clean stroke. Yep. And is able to absolutely light it up. Now, there's a lot to get into about the upsides and downsides. I will just ask you right off the top, what's your immediate reaction?
I'm curious to hear what your downsides are, because this one to me just doesn't really carry a ton of downside, unless you think there was a better deal to be had. I mean, the Nuggets needed shooting. He provides that. He moves around. But like the guys they traded, Bol Bol, obviously, I thought with the surgery, there was no way they were going to be able to move Bol. In fact, I said that said as much today. And then PJ Dozier, as much as we all love him, he's out. He's out for the year. And then he's an unrestricted free agent, which means Denver would have to sign a guy who is coming off of an injury to a deal. It just didn't make sense. You've also got Davon Reed. So to me, I don't see a downside. The only question is Bryn Forbes going to bring what it is Denver is hoping he's going to bring, which is some shooting and can slot in. And I know we'll get to this. But once you start to look at, okay, so now what's the second unit? That's still not completely clear, but I do think Bryn Forbes is a great addition, and he's a good shooter. I'm excited to watch him play.
CT's in the comments, and boy, CT hates this trade. He just hates this trade. I've been trying to talk him down on Twitter, and he is not into it. We can get into some of the comments as the show goes on. I'll say this: the downside is going to be defense. So this is not pursuant to like what the Nuggets needed, right? Which is like a regular. I've been saying it. They needed an NBA guard. They needed an NBA guard off the bench. That's what they needed. They needed an NBA player. They have an NBA player now. He's 6'2", not huge, but he's shifty, has a little bit of shake, but more importantly, he's going to be able to move very effortlessly off of handoffs, which is so much of the Nuggets offense, and get 3-pointers. He's good in all the different ways that he's able to make it that the Nuggets generate threes. He's going to be good in all of those. He absolutely is not gun shy. So he is not like a selective I'm only going to take high quality shots. Bryn will get them up.
Right.
We'll note that if you want to get the best perspective on what Bryn Forbes can be in terms of the value that he can provide, go talk to any Miami Heat fan. And the reason I say that is that he absolutely buried the Heat in that first round series last year. In every series, I talk about this, how there's one guy that the other team's fans never see coming because they don't think of that guy. When they think of the other team, they only expect the star players to play well. And at the end of that series, the Heat were going like, Bryn Forbes? We got beat by Bryn Forbes?
So in the first game, he plays 14 minutes. He goes 0 of 3. In the second game, he plays 20 minutes. He goes 6 of 9 from the 3-point line. In game 3, he goes 3 of 7, which again, a guy off the bench hits 3 3-pointers, especially 3 of 7, 43% shooting. That's great. And then in game 4, 7 of 14 from the 3-point line. So he makes 16 threes in 4 games, really 16 in 3 games because he goes 0 and 3 in game 1. So absolutely a guy who has even done this in the playoffs against a very good team.
He had last year 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games last year where he hit 4 or more threes. That was in a limited bench role for the, again, NBA champion Milwaukee Bucks. Bryn can play. Now, again, there will be situations in which Bryn is not playable because of the defense. He was not brought in to be a starter. He was not brought in to be the difference maker, right? Like the plan is still, most especially, I will say he will help until Jamal gets back, but oh boy. When Jamal gets back, being able to run I think I'm pretty well regarded as being anti 3 yards. That's a thing I don't particularly
3 yards
watching. I don't like the 3-guard lineups.
Oh, 3 guards. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
I think the 3-guard lineups are doomed for Denver, especially if, even with Nikola, honestly, I just don't like them. However, if I was going to make a 3-guard lineup, Jamal Murray, Bones Highland, and Bryn Forbes is a pretty good 3-guard lineup.
Oh, I don't know, man. That's so smart. I don't know who you're guarding there.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing is like you're only running it versus bench units. Again, like you're only running it in situations where it doesn't matter if you get killed on the glass. You're trying to survive 6 minutes without Jokic. This is what it's about. You're trying to survive 6 minutes without Jokic.
Right.
Like the question is, does Bryn Forbes help you survive 6 minutes without Jokic more than the potential long-term value of Bol Bol and PJ Dozier? I want to note that Dozier is a free agent at the end of the season.
This is the thing. So we should talk about this aspect of it. I mean, Bol Bol was a sunk cost. What was Denver going to do? Like, even if he did play the rest of this year, or first of all, he's getting the surgery, so he's not going to play, and he clearly wasn't coming back. So that one's okay. PJ Dozier is injured. And PJ Dozier, by the way, has a history of knee injuries that were one of the reasons he hasn't really, why he bounced around was a lot of teams were, how much can we invest in him because we're worried he's not going to hold up? Well, with this injury, I love PJ Dozier, but with this injury, that it sort of makes that worst case scenario that he's just hobbled by injuries, it makes it that much more likely for him for the rest of his career, on top of the fact that he's a free agent this summer anyway. So Denver would have to sign him. And then the last point with PJ Dozier, everybody knows I'm one of the biggest PJ Dozier fans. Like, I really like that guy. Davon Reed provides a lot of what PJ Dozier brought to the table, in my opinion. And even the idea of every roster, especially going forward with this Nuggets team, you got to find the PJ Doziers on the PJ Dozier contract. PJ Dozier was, if he was healthy, I think was going to cost even a little bit more. Not a lot, but just a little bit more next year. If Davon Reed, who's never caught on to an NBA team, you might get him for a minimum salary. And even if he only provides 90, 95%, that's good enough. And Davon Reed, by the way, might provide 100% of PJ Dozier, just in a different way. I'm not so sure. We'll find out.
Let's take a break. We'll come back and we'll talk about the bench rotation, where that's at, and we'll get to, they traded 2 people, so that means that there's spot for one more. We'll boogie on into that conversation after the break. But first, I want to tell you about PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. They've got the best NBA DFS prop game on the market. They offer more NBA props than any other DFS prop operator and offer all the superstar players as well as the bench players, only recording a handful of minutes each game. PrizePicks offers any prop you can think of, from points, assists, rebounds, threes made, anything. You pick 2 to 5 players and over/under and their projections, and you can win up to 10 times on any entry, and it's just you versus the projected numbers. PrizePicks also allows mixed sport entries, so you can take whatever quarterback is playing the Buffalo Bills this weekend to throw 4 touchdowns. Whatever quarter. I don't even know what quarterback is playing the Bills this weekend. That quarterback could throw 4 touchdowns, and you could combo that with Jokic points and come out pretty well. Use the award-winning app on both the App Store and Google Play. PrizePicks is safer and offers fast withdrawals. Go to prizepicks.com today or use the App Store and download the app. All users that deposit and use our promo code NBA will get $50 free if your first PrizePicks entry scores a single point. That's right. All users that deposit and use promo code NBA get $50 free if your first PrizePicks entry scores a single point. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for making Locked On Nuggets your first listen each and every day. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast. Nightly recaps of every NBA game with analysis from our local experts. Listen to Locked On Now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or watch it on the Locked On NBA YouTube channel. Back here with Adam Mares breaking down a little bit of an emergency pod, a semi-emergency pod, an urgent situation. Urgent care pod. Here as Bryn Forbes joins the Nuggets. Real questions about the rotation. So this is like, all right, a lot of the comments are about this. What is with the small guards? I want to note. So like, I'm captain of the short is bad club. Bryn's 6'2". Now he plays pretty small, and 6'2" is not big, but 6'2" is like average size for an NBA point guard. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
Like Bryn's fine. Like I'm not worried on that end.
I don't know. I disagree with this. He's small. You're right that it's fine, but he's not an average size guard.
I would agree with that. I would say he's smaller. I would say I am less concerned because of the presence that he presents on the offensive end. I think helps a lot. The rotation is going to be interesting. There's a lot of things that can go on here, right? Like, I don't know. A lot of people are like, well, what's the rotation now? Like, we don't know. Like he might try Facu. I would assume that the easiest solution here is Rivers is out and Bryn takes Rivers' place.
Rivers, huh?
I don't know what else to think just from if the Nuggets really thought that Rivers was important, they would have him on a bigger contract. Does that make sense?
Maybe. Here's the thing I'll say. The Nuggets now, in my opinion, have a really good starting lineup. When Monte goes to that second unit, obviously he's the second unit point guard, so it solves one of these like little questions. Here's the hard part. I don't think they have an every night lineup. Meaning I don't think they have this is the guys you play every single night. And here's the hard part. Michael Malone has not proven in his tenure as a Nuggets coach to be a flexible rotation guy. He likes rotations. And sometimes he'll play a lineup that gets murdered 5 games in a row just because the Nuggets keep winning. And it's like, hey, I know it's not working, but we're winning and I'm not going to break it. I think this is a lineup that you have to look across and say, is this a Facu night? Is this a Forbes night? Is this a Bones night? Is it some combo of those guys? And that's what gets me a little bit nervous is Malone's never seemed to like doing that.
Zerko comments he was honestly more for Jordan Nwora. You were not getting Jordan Nwora. Just as a heads up, that is absolutely not happening. That was not an available option. I will tell you that having canvassed the league, I don't find that there are a lot of 3-and-D wings that are over 6'6" available. Like there just aren't a lot. One of the biggest like name guys that's like available is like Duncan Robinson. The Nuggets don't have the money for that kind of deal, and it would be a bad fit. Forbes, I think, provides a lot. The finishing, I haven't looked at Bryn's finishing. I would have to assume it's probably not that good. I would not assume, like my prior going in would have to be that Bryn's finishing is not excellent. I might be wrong on that, but that's like where I kind of think of Bryn is probably like, he might struggle around the rim, which is still because it's an issue, right? Is you have to be able to come off the pick and be able to cause issues. Like Bryn doesn't solve all of the problems of the backcourt. I think he alleviates some of the issues, and he does provide another shooter because when they're having those nights where they just cannot hit a bucket, Bryn can come in. Forbes will come in and just hit, not always, but can come in and hit like 3 threes in short order. And it's like, oh, and like you mentioned the inconsistent rotation. That's a lot of this, right? It's just like, okay, you know what? The bench wasn't great, but Forbes came in and in that 5-minute stint, he hit 3 threes and that really helped. That kept them above water again, until Jokic gets back on the court. Like that's the whole thing, right?
Your point, though, that is a really good one about the rim, because just for reference, Facu takes about 14% of his shots at the rim. And I feel like he's never at the rim. That's one of my things, right? He doesn't put pressure on the rim. Bryn Forbes over the last 2 seasons has taken about 5%. So Facu's taking almost 3 times as many shots at the rim as Bryn Forbes does, which tells you he's not a threat other than with his 3-point shot. So it's definitely a thing when you start talking about combos. It's definitely a piece of the equation.
Now, I will say this. I'll say this. He had 44 possessions last year as the ball handler in pick and roll. He shot 55% for 1.14 points per possession. That's rated as 96th percentile excellence.
Great.
So even if he can't get to the rim, what he can do is he can't come off that pick. They drop, and they're going to have to respect Bryn Forbes coming off. This is a lot of it. You have to respect Bryn Forbes as a shooter. And if you have to respect Bryn Forbes as a shooter, guess what you can't do? Send 2 bodies at Jokic every single time. Right. Or just crowd the paint and shut down that kind of stuff. And it'll help, honestly, if they do continue to play Facu, if they run that Facu Jeff Green middle pick and roll, it's going to help. You can't bring the tagger because you leave Bryn Forbes open. Green's going to find him, and that's an easy bucket. You leave Bryn Forbes open in the corner, that's suicide. So
it's funny, man. Honestly, I just looking at Marcus Howard's shots at the rim. He's about the exact same. I think Bryn Forbes is like a taller, more veteran Marcus Howard.
Yes. That is honestly not a bad comp. It is seriously if you took Marcus and you just upgraded him about 2 levels, you get Bryn Forbes. That's honestly a really good comp. And if you say we gave up Bol Bol and PJ Dozier, yeah, you gave up Bol Bol and PJ Dozier because
you didn't give up. You literally gave up 2 guys that are expiring the end of the season, of which neither one will play. So yes, to me, it's just crazy. It's people thinking towards a future that, 1, it doesn't actually logically make sense, and 2, is very uncertain whether it was going to happen. One thing I will say, I was going to do a notebook pod on some of these games. One of the notes I just love, the Bones Davon Reed combo is so intriguing to me, because they both have really ridiculous wingspans, and I really think it makes a difference. Those guys get put in pick and rolls together, against the Lakers at least. They were in a decent amount of pick and rolls together, and they were so disruptive, and I think it's because they had such long arms. So when you start to talk about, okay, second unit, staggered units, does a Bones, Forbes, Davon Reed 1, 2, 3, does that work? It might, actually. It might give you enough length, shooting, and mobility, and then Bones, I like him alongside another point guard, but maybe he can handle that primary ball handler roles a little bit better than I anticipate. I don't know. Maybe that's the combo.
I like how Davon Reed, they managed to find a player with great defensive principles and hustle and all the things, and good passer and the things that I really value, and nice shot selection, and also fits with the type of player that you like. It literally is they were okay, we're going to find one player that we can get who both Adam and Matt are going to agree on. Do you want to talk Boogie now, or you want to talk about it in the third segment?
I want to solve through this rotation thing real quick. I feel like we talked about it, but I'm really more curious. So your prediction is Austin Rivers, and they just roll with a Facu Forbes, or this is your fear, and so you're predicting the worst case scenario?
Yeah,
Facu Forbes is not going to work, man. Come on.
I agree. Look, if you ask me what they should do, here's the thing. There's always this question that we deal with. A lot of NBA discourse winds up, and I will say this happens a lot with a lot of really good content from a smart basketball perspective, but it's always built upon well, this is what I think they should do, so they will. No. That is not how the NBA works. Rational thought's not always the driving focus here. Look, if you ask me, you know what I'm going to say. Facu's out. You play Bryn Forbes, you play Bones Highland, you play Austin Rivers. You got that's a nice 2-3-4 guard rotation.
I will say this, Matt. The team is aware of Facu's numbers. I think they're very aware of. I don't think the team is thinking it's something that it's not, and so that's part of why I wouldn't be surprised if he was either reduced or cut out, or kind of I think is probably best, used only in specific circumstances.
Sure, and that's the kind of thing, right? Is if we just go to the idea of I think they might honestly, it might be a thing where he's all right, we're gonna specifically match up the bench with whatever we're facing tonight. Okay, they've got short guards.
He's never done that.
He did it early. He did it early in his Nuggets tenure. He just got away from it, in part because the players hated it. The players actively hated that they never had a rotation. They didn't have a rotation in 2016. They didn't have a rotation in 2017. And Wilson Chandler complained about this every single day. Like we talked to him. Like Wilson and Gallo were both really mad all the time because they didn't have a consistent rotation. Now, since then, they've settled into it.
I think you need to have a rotation with your like starters. I don't know that you want to mess with that, but your bench guys like
lots of guys around the league do that. As much as I've talked about how like everybody has a rotation, the bench you can get a little bit more flexible with. You just can't mess with. What you can't do is you can't be like, we're going to play Jokic 5 minutes this game and then 8 minutes. You can't do that. Like Jokic plays when Jokic plays.
The next question. So let's say Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. come back. You know, Jamal Murray eventually going to be starting. So let's just say Monte Morris is now your one. Michael Porter, if he comes back in April, let's say, which sounds like end of March, April is kind of the time frame that is leaking, but maybe they're hopeful this or that. I just feel like that's too late. He's a bench guy at that point. That's just my perspective. I don't know that you throw him into the starting lineup again there. He probably plays a lot of minutes, but so if you have those guys on the bench, Monte, Michael Porter, man, who else is that? Who else? Like, what is the rest of your rotation there? Davon Reed, is it him? Is it Austin Rivers? Is it Bryn Forbes? Is it Zeke Naji?
For playoffs?
Yeah.
All right, so playoffs is Jamal, Will, Aaron,
Jeff Green,
you think over J. Mike?
Think.
Okay.
And Jokic. And then
five.
Monte,
Davon,
Michael Porter. Let's assume he's there. Michael Porter.
Oh, you're at 8 already.
And JaMychal Green maybe is the next shoe.
Yeah, and I think then you either go. It's either Bryn or JaMychal, depending on what you need.
So he jumps Austin Rivers in this case. I think it's honestly so situational. Austin Reeves. This is what scares me. There's a lot of guys, and George Karl is one of them that's like hammered this into me. It's way better for a coach when there's a pecking order that's like, this is your best player, this is your second and third, this is your fourth, fifth, and sixth, and this is your last two in. And I just don't think Denver has that. I think they've got a best player, a second best player.
Well, if Bryn comes in and he plays great, though, that changes things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's the thing is if he asserts himself, because I'll tell you, people are going to be mad because I think Bones probably loses minutes as the season goes on. This is what's happened with the other guys. Like even the rookies that he's had confidence in once after All-Star, when it's like, all right, we got to start getting serious. There's been these questions in the chat, and I do want to address it. There's been questions of are they going to make more moves? So I asked a specific question tonight, and a source said nothing imminent. You can take a breath for now. Might be something more later. So what this basically means is like they're still shopping. I will say this: that is a change from where they were. I have talked about this and written about this. They don't have a lot of flexibility in terms of contracts.
Right.
They just don't have salary to move. It is possible to trade in injured players. You just have to get them to waive the specific part of that physical. So the Celtics basically said like, we're willing, as long as he clears all of their physicals, except for the foot, we'll take it. That's fine. That's how that works. Like PJ Dozier is going to go to Boston and they're going to clear him, except for, hey, by the way, you're recovering from ACL surgery.
Right.
Other than that, they're fine. Josh Turner says move Barton. No, that will not happen. The starter's not going anywhere. So let's take a break. We'll come back and we'll talk about the boogie in the room. Does that sound good?
The boogie in the room.
All right, we'll do that when we come back on Locked On Nuggets. BetOnline would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue our march to the playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains the #1 spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022. It's a new year, and there's a new updated desktop and mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, to get started. Football, basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. A lot of great games this weekend, divisional round. It's very exciting. Some teams are 2.5-point favorites with a chance to go to their, let's see, what is this now? Is that our fourth? I believe it's our fourth AFC championship game. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. We'll be right back on Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Nuggets your first listen each and every day. Now make your second listen Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q, with expert analysis from Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all platforms. Wrapping up here with Adam Mares after the big Bryn Forbes trade for Denver.
I'm reading an ESPN article as you're doing these ad reads. I just want to give two stats this comes from Woj. Woj doing a statistical deep dive up on ESPN.com. He says Bryn Forbes ranks 3rd in 3-point field goal percentage over the last 3 seasons combined, minimum 1,000 attempts. It goes Seth Curry number 1, Joe Harris number 2, Bryn Forbes number 3. And then lastly, according to Second Spectrum, Bryn Forbes has shot 45% on catch and shoot 3-pointers in the past 2 seasons. 5th best mark amongst players with 300 plus attempts. So catch and shoot and overall 3-pointers, he's not just good, he's elite. He's hyper elite. So now the question becomes, you give Jokic just one guy that teams are like, we cannot under any circumstances help off of. What does that do? Maybe it does open some things up. That's the upside.
It's cool. I didn't know that they gave Josh Kroenke a Second Spectrum account. So when we're looking at the rest, there is another roster spot now created by this move. They took out 2 players. They returned 1 back. Everyone has been freaking out about this, so I will go ahead and I needed to go ahead and tell you what I know about the DeMarcus Cousins situation. The Nuggets still plan to sign DeMarcus Cousins, and everyone's like, but they've said that for weeks. Okay, so the problem that I understand it is that he has minor injuries, not anything serious. He's cleared physical. That's all fine. It's when they start him, when they sign him, they want to play him to see how the fit is. But in order to do that, you need him to be 100%. So they are like waiting for DeMarcus Cousins to get fully healthy, and then they will sign him. So that is why the delay is. It is not that there's some sort of big hiccup. That's what I've been told as far as the issue. Maybe there's a bigger problem, but that is what I've been informed of by #sources.
It's interesting because we kept thinking, this homestand, DeMarcus Cousins be available for the homestand. You start to look ahead, Nuggets have a big one tomorrow. I'm very excited for the game against the Clippers. I think that's a very interesting game since Denver has played them very closely. They're going to kill them. I agree. That's my prediction. I think Denver's going to kill him, although we'll find out. We'll still wait and see. Then you got Memphis, then you got Detroit. Then you go on the road for 6 games. I'm curious now if DeMarcus Cousins was a plan for the road trip. Is he a road trip signee? I know obviously there's other things that are as you just mentioned of what are holding it up. But maybe rather than give a homestand boost, maybe he's the road trip because there are 2 back-to-backs on that 6-game road trip. And wouldn't it be great to start a player like Boogie if you were going to give Jokic a night rest?
So we'll see when that gets there. I will say this: if you're trying to like replicate a little bit of the first unit into the second unit, as opposed to the first unit has an identity and the second unit is a blob of garbage. I think if you're trying to change that and try and replicate things, you can run Boogie Bryn Forbes handoffs, and that's going to be pretty dangerous. That's going to be
you can run Boogie Bones pick and rolls would also be very dangerous. I mean, Bones. One of my notes I had in my notebook was that over the last few games, Bones had been so bad. I mean, just like his mistakes have been so glaring. Over the last few games, you're kind of reminded of, especially going through the tape of like, oh yeah, this guy actually does some things at a really high level, like generate switches or punish teams when they're trying not to cheat on Jokic. Like he's really good at some of that stuff. And I'm pretty encouraged with what I've seen.
Is Boogie in line for a roster spot or a 10-day? My assumption is a 10-day. I have not clarified that, but I do not feel that they're going to commit a roster spot. I bet it's going to be a 10-day and see how it works. If there's any player that you want to absolutely be cautious with, it's DeMarcus Cousins. That's
for sure.
You want, in the words of Walter White, you might want to tread lightly as far as that goes. So overall, look, I mean, we can be caught up in being too positive. I think Bryn Forbes he's not some massive needle mover. This is just a small move on the margins that takes 2 players that weren't going to be in the rotation anyway because of injury and adds a player that can actually play. It addresses a central need, which has been shooting. I did see NBA's bench stats are I'm always a little bit I kind of cock my head at them. I did see that the Nuggets were actually number 1 in 3-pointers made per 100 possessions off the bench. Now they're only shooting 34%, right? So they don't shoot well. I think maybe what I'm thinking of is like, they don't make a lot, but they have to shoot a lot because they can't get anything at the rim. Is that like a good?
Probably.
Does that sound like it tracks? They've actually moved into middle of the pack on both offense and defense on the bench. I wonder how much of that is like they started running the Facu stuff and Bones started playing. I think a lot of that helped.
They're top 10 offense and defense with their bench. There's no way.
No, not top 10. No, they're middle of the pack. They're like 16.
Even that I have a hard time understanding. I mean, they have like multiple games with under 10 total points. I just don't know how. Like 1 or 2 games like that weigh you down so much.
Yeah, like I said, the bench stats on NBA.com always are a little bit wonky and Could be just kind of entirely off. We know the bench is a problem. So if they were going to make another move, it would have to be for like a wing. That's the only thing left, right?
Or or just clarity. I mean, it's really weird. I don't know that they traded the two guys most likely to have been traded, and now I don't know who is the next most likely candidate in your mind.
So you really, I think I get your thing that you're talking about with George, that they need to make a trade that certifiably puts a guy that's like, this guy is clearly the 7th best player in the rotation. Does that sound about right?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's a lot easier on a coach when there is a clarity of what guys should play. And even us right now doing this thought experiment with nothing to lose, we're having a hard time saying this is the guy. So imagine how hard it is for Michael Malone.
Yeah, I think here's the problem is like, I think we're in different places probably on it, in that I'm higher on Austin and think that there are nights when Austin's really good.
I don't know if that's true. I'm not down on Austin.
Oh, okay.
I think he's pretty good.
I got that I got that perception from podcasting with you this year, but that could be off.
I'm telling you, like all things, they're combinations. Like NBA players are good. You got to find the right system, the right combination, this or that. Like I'm pretty low on the Facu Rivers backcourt. Pretty low on that combo.
Yeah. How do you like Facu Bones?
I think it works. It's volatile in large part because Bones is volatile right now. He's a rookie that some nights is just not very good, and teams take advantage of him.
Maybe that's one of the advantages of trading for Forbes too, right? Is, hey, if Bones doesn't have it that night, you're not sunk. Because that really has been a thing that I've thought about is I don't think it's healthy when a rookie has to perform well. I just never think that that's healthy.
It's not, but I don't think that Bryn Forbes solves that problem.
Okay, why not?
Because he doesn't get to the rim, he doesn't handle the ball in pick and rolls, he doesn't put pressure on the paint, and I've talked about Bones's threes are like a huge boost. The Nuggets win big when he hits them, but it's really the getting downhill, running pick and roll, getting to the rim that second unit needs from him.
Isn't Forbes just an older Marcus Howard? Hey Ryan, welcome to the show. That's actually the exact same comp that Adam made. He's not older, he's better. He's like, if you take Marcus Howard.
And older though too. Like, I mean, honestly, part of this is just he's over the rookie hump, like he was in the San Antonio system for 5-6 years. Like he knows what to do.
Yeah, that's a lot of it. Like this guys that come out of the Spurs, like they know how to play, like regardless of who it is. Corey Joseph, Patty Mills.
So he played at the Spurs for 5 years, went to Milwaukee, won a championship, and then went back to the San Antonio. Like if San Antonio signed you to a second deal, they probably trust you.
Yeah, I don't know about that because he didn't play much this year. I think it was largely a product of, he won the title and then was kind of, I think, out of a gig. And then the Spurs like took care of their guy and brought it back. And then they got.
But that's what I mean is he's their guy. Like they're not every player that goes to San Antonio is the San Antonio guy. That's my point.
True. That's true. Who is it that did it? The Italian guy that was so streaky.
Bellinelli?
Bellinelli was a guy that like, they gave multiple shots to, but they were also like, that's okay. we don't have.
Are you buying Juancho stock?
No.
I picked some up. I brought a pretty good case load.
Okay. I'm excited for the Bryn Forbes Vlatko Chanchar combos. That's what'll get the Nuggets.
Maybe Vlatko Chanchar's the next guy. They just trade all the injured players. Maybe that's the guy that gets dealt.
Chat's bumping tonight. People are excited about the trade.
By the way, subscribe, everybody watching this. I'm guessing that's one of the reasons you caught us. We've been doing this a lot, going live late at night, so you're not going to want to miss us. Hit the subscribe button and that little bell so that your phone gets a little push notification. It says Adam and Matt talking Nugs. Tune in.
I don't get the Spurs motivation in this trade. Andrew, it's pretty simple. They want to do right by Bryn Forbes. That's it. They just want to do right by Bryn. Like they brought Bryn back. They don't have room for him in the rotation because they're focusing on developing the young guards. They have a lot of good young guards, and they got a 2028 second rounder. Like Bryn, it's been out there that Bryn wanted to go to a playoff team. Like Bryn wanted actual minutes. That's been out there.
I will say this: the Austin Rivers game last year turned the Blazer series. That's a large reason why. Bryn Forbes has a good chance of having the Bryn Forbes game. Like, he's just more likely than most players to have the game where they make a lot of threes, as evidenced by last year in the Milwaukee-Miami series. That's exactly what happened.
I think look, let's say that they play 2 playoff series. I think there'll be one series where he can play and is effective, and there's one series probably where he can't.
Yeah,
I think that's probably how that goes. And it doesn't. I don't know if that's correlated with them winning or not, but that's Bryn. There, I will say this: that again, Forbes is not a good shooter. Forbes is a elite shooter. He is absolutely phenomenal, and he can shoot. He's one of those guys that can shoot without having balance. This is an important thing. He doesn't have to have like catch and shoot, perfect catch, perfect form. Like Bryn can be moving on pick and roll, like catching it, moving to his left, fading away, and knock it. It's he has incredible shooting touch.
Right. It's interesting. It's something. It's interesting. Denver just didn't pay anything, and people are like, oh, the second round pick, you lost an asset. Second round picks, man. Second round picks get bought. Like, if Denver has a player in the second round they like, they'll just pay money to get one from the Knicks.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially it's the 2028. I think they have some runway to try and acquire another 2028 second rounder. So, right. And look, if you're wondering about PJ, and I know a lot of people was commenting like, "Oh, I love PJ." They love him too. Like, that was, I reached out tonight, and one of the sources I contacted was like, everyone here loves PJ, but we had to do something to address the issue. The injuries were just too much. I think that was what changed from a month ago. Is when I talked to folks a month ago. They really did have confidence of like, we can get through this as long as it doesn't get worse. And it got a little worse. And I think that's part of when they just started getting banged up with stuff like again, this goes back to the Clippers game, right? Like when Will was out, they're just doomed, like they really are. They were at a point, barring Forbes and then, adding Cousins. We'll see how that works out. But with Forbes in particular, if they lost one more guy, they just did not. I mean, if Monte has to miss a game because he's got a bad ankle, what are they going to do?
I am, another one I'm kind of curious as I'm sitting here. If you do get a Murray, we might not get this because just how the injuries line up. But if you got a Murray, Murray, Forbes, Barton, MPJ, Jokic lineup, that's about as close to maximum spacing as you can get. If you give Murray, Barton, Forbes, MPJ, all those guys are knocking down an open shot. So run that 2-man game.
There will be no leaving of Bryn Forbes' man to go help down on Jokic in front. That will not be happening.
You might have a 125 defensive rating and still have a plus 10 net rating just off of that lineup.
Yeah. All right, let's go wrap it up for Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us on this urgent care podcast. That's probably not good for this time frame of history. Thanks for joining us on Locked On Nuggets. Really appreciate it. Hit the like and subscribe button on YouTube. You guys can join all the fun folks having a good time in the chat. Lots of people excited. Going to be fun. We will be back tomorrow night after the Clippers game. Adam and I are both predicting a Nuggets win in this contest. We'll talk to you then. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys again next time.